I used to believe that in corporate life, hard work eventually spoke for itself. Not loudly, not dramatically, just consistently enough that people knew who actually carried the weight. But the day I opened the final version of our 1-point toss proposal, that belief finally cracked. It was a Tuesday morning, the kind where nothing feels important yet. Coffee, inbox, Slack, routine. I opened the document because I always check the last version before anything goes to the client. Not out of distrust, out of habit. I've caught mistakes before. Typos, wrong dates, misaligned budgets, things that save embarrassment. This time, though, it wasn't a typo. I hit Ctrl+F, typed my name, waited for the little yellow highlight to jump through the pages. Nothing. 0 results. My first reaction wasn't anger, it was confusion. That weird, slow moment when your brain tries to explain away a red flag. Maybe they changed the format. Maybe the team list moved to an appendix. Maybe it's just not loading. Maybe something. But the more I scrolled, the more I felt that quiet tightening in my chest. Something was off. Something was wrong in a way that wasn't an accident. I kept reading until I reached the final page, the summary section where the authorship always sits. And that's when I saw it. Prepared by Ethan Ward, Senior Account Lead. No secondary contributors. No supported by. No initials. No trace of me at all. I blinked once, then twice. Then leaned back in my chair and just stared at the screen. 6 months of work. 6 months of research, calls, late nights, travel. Gone. Like I'd never touched a single line of that document. For a second I wondered if I was overreacting. Office politics happen, people take credit. But full removal on a $1 million deal, that isn't a misunderstanding. That's intent. And Ethan was exactly the kind of guy who'd smile in your face while deleting you behind your back. Everyone knew it, but pretended not to. He'd built a career on being visible, loud in meetings, quick with buzzwords, always gravitating toward executives like planets orbiting a sun. I was the opposite, quiet, methodical, the guy who fixed things instead of talking about fixing them. So maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. Still, seeing my name erased like that, it hit different. At 10:07 a.m., he walked into my doorway without knocking, holding his stainless steel coffee mug like a trophy. "Hey," he said, that smile already forming. "Proposal's out the door. Big day." I didn't look up right away. I didn't trust myself to. Finally, I said, "Who finalized the draft?" "Oh, I did," he shrugged. "Streamlined it a bit. You know how clients are. They care about outcomes, not names." I turned my monitor slightly, tapping the corner of the screen. So removing mine was streamlining. He didn't even blink. "Look, let's not make this about credit, okay? We're one team. Doesn't matter whose name is on it, as long as the company wins." "Right? The company." Funny how the company always wins when he takes something. He left my office before I could reply, humming under his breath, a tune I'd learned to associate with him getting away with something. The moment he disappeared down the hall, I exhaled slowly and opened our revision history. I needed to know when it happened, who uploaded what, which version had my name, and which didn't. And there it was, a tiny timestamp from 11:43 p.m., the night before. Ethan had logged in after hours, specifically to upload a version with the authorship rewritten. He'd planned it. All of it. I sat there for a long moment, just absorbing what that meant. This wasn't petty office credit theft. This was political maneuvering, the kind that comes right before someone tries to reposition you as non-essential. And that's when something inside me shifted. Not rage, not panic, just a cold, clear line of thought. This wasn't over, not even close. But that realization would come later, before anything else could happen. The client had to see the proposal, and I had no idea that their reaction, one short email, would start unraveling everything Ethan thought he'd secured. The client responded faster than anyone expected. Normally, a proposal that size sits in someone's inbox for a day or two. People skim, forward, think, forget. But this reply came less than 18 hours after Ethan hit send. I was in the office early again, partly out of routine, partly because I couldn't stop replaying that moment from yesterday. Seeing my name missing did something to me. It pushed everything off balance, made every little noise feel sharper. Even the hum of the ceiling lights felt louder. At 8:12 a.m., my phone buzzed with the notification, Refinal Draft, 1.2 mod renewal. I froze for a moment. I wasn't copied on the original thread. Ethan had removed me from that too. But the client, they remembered my personal email from the travel arrangements last month, so the reply came directly to me. I clicked it open. 4 sentences. Calm, professional, surgical. Hi, Ethan. Appreciate the draft. Before we proceed, where is Michael? He has been our primary point of contact for 6 months. We will not move forward without his review. That was it. One question. Where is Michael? And suddenly months of Ethan's posturing collapsed into a single, quiet moment of truth. And here's the funny part. For a second, I felt relief. Not triumph, not revenge. Just the simple validation of being seen. But relief doesn't last long in corporate politics, because right behind it came the irritation, the sharp, stinging kind. He erased me, and the client had to put me back. That should never have been their job. I forwarded the email to Ethan with a plain message. You'll want to respond. Not passive-aggressive, not snarky. Just enough to let him sit with the implication. 5 minutes later, I heard him storming down the hall. He didn't knock. He never knocked. You went behind me? His voice was low, controlled, the kind of tone people use when they feel cornered. I turned my chair slowly. They emailed me directly. Iki, you removed me from the thread. That's not the point, he said, jaw tightening. You need to be aligned with leadership on communication. This is why I streamlined the team list. Clients get confused when too many names are involved. Confused? I repeated. They asked where I was. He looked away, and not far, just a slight shift of the eyes. The microsecond people use when the reality in front of them is inconvenient. We need to present a unified front, he tried again, but the confidence wasn't there anymore. They should trust me as the account lead. They trusted me first, I said quietly. That was the first crack. He heard it too. The shift. I wasn't trying to fight him. I was stating a fact. He straightened up, exhaled, and put on that managerial calm he used when things slipped out of his hands. I'll handle the reply, he said. Don't send anything yourself. And then he walked out. I leaned back in my chair. Not angry, not proud, just done with pretending I didn't see the pattern. He was afraid, not of losing credit. He'd lost that already. He was afraid of losing control. 10 minutes later, the email thread updated again, this time because Ethan had panicked. He wrote a long explanation to the client about internal streamlining, team representation, and ensuring clarity. You know, the usual meaningless words people use when they're trying to rewrite their mistake in real time. The client responded 10 minutes after that. Understood. Please include Michael on all correspondence. He built the entire framework we're discussing. That was the moment Ethan went pale, and I should have stopped there. Let him deal with the embarrassment, the cleanup, the sudden shift in who actually owned the narrative. But something in me had changed after seeing that deleted byline. Something small, steady, and irreversible. I wasn't going to let this slide. Not this time. I opened a blank document on my screen and began writing something I'd never written before. Not a proposal, not a summary, not a timeline. Something else. Because this wasn't just about the deal anymore, and I didn't know it yet, but what I wrote that morning would become the first step in tearing down the foundation Ethan thought was unshakable. I didn't start writing out of spite. I started because something in me finally snapped into place. The recognition that I'd been playing defense for months without admitting it. Every forgot to loop you in, Every "we can finalize without you." Every meeting where Ethan jumped in before I finished a sentence. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. And patterns have intent. Still, I didn't want to react emotionally. That never ends well in corporate life. So I opened a blank document and typed a simple header. Account continuity notes. Q4. On the surface, it looked boring, administrative even. But in reality, it was the first time I allowed myself to fully map out everything I'd been carrying. Client onboarding timeline, project dependencies, undocumented commitments Ethan never bothered to track. Metrics I had kept manually because our CRM was a mess. Decision logs, side agreements, risk notes no one read but still existed. Half an hour in, I realized something uncomfortable. If I were to disappear tomorrow, vacation, illness, layoff, no one would be able to run this account. Not because I was irreplaceable, but because Ethan had built a system where he was visible and everyone else was structural support. Except the structure was me. I sat back, staring at the growing document. For months, I'd thought Ethan's problem was ego, but no, it was deeper. His career depended on owning outcomes he didn't create, and the more I wrote, the clearer it became. He couldn't afford for people to see how much of this deal wasn't his work. Around noon, my manager, our actual department head, Lauren, sent a message in the team channel. Quick sync at 3 p.m. Status on the renewal. She never did surprise meetings. Ever. That was my first warning sign. The second came an hour later. Ethan was suddenly nice. Not fake nice. Strategic nice. Hey man, great job getting the client back engaged. Really appreciate your support. Let's align before the meeting. Just want to make sure we're presenting consistently. I'd heard that tone before. Years in corporate teach you the difference between collaboration and containment. This wasn't collaboration. This was damage control. At 2:40 p.m., he appeared at my door with 2 coffees. For you, he said. Figured we could go in together. I didn't take it. Not because I thought it was some theatrical peace offering, but because I knew I had to keep my head clear. Caffeinated panic is still panic. I'll meet you there, I said. Something flickered in his expression. Irritation disguised as confusion. He covered it fast, but I saw it. I was starting to notice everything now. In the conference room, Lauren sat at the head of the table, phone face down, laptop open. She's always calm, ex-consultant calm, where nothing surprises you because you've already lived worse. But today she looked focused. Let's start with the renewal, she said. Walk me through the proposal process. Ethan jumped in instantly, his voice steady, confident, practiced. Absolutely. I finalized the proposal Monday night, sent it out Tuesday morning, and the client responded. He removed me from the authorship, I said. Not abruptly, not emotionally, just a factual correction delivered quietly. Lauren turned her head slowly, not to him, to me. Explain. I had expected anger, maybe fear, some kind of adrenaline spike, but the truth is I felt calm, because for the first time in months, I wasn't swallowing the truth to keep the peace. I drafted every section of the proposal except the financial table, I said. My name was on the document until the final version, the version Ethan uploaded at 11:43 p.m. Ethan's jaw twitched. Michael, we already discussed this. No, Lauren cut in. I'm asking him. Something shifted in the room. She wasn't taking sides. She was assessing. I slid my laptop forward, opened the version history, showed the timestamps, showed the diff log where the byline disappeared. No theatrics, no commentary, just evidence. Ethan leaned back, trying to look unbothered. It's a misunderstanding, he said, but his voice cracked on the last syllable. And that's when I realized something important, something that changed how I saw everything. People like Ethan don't fear mistakes. They fear documentation. Silence filled the room. Not awkward, not hostile. Evaluative. Lauren finally spoke. I'll review all versions. Both of you send me your contributions by end of day. Ethan opened his mouth, about to protest, but she'd already moved on. Meeting over. We stood, collected our things. Ethan grabbed his mug too fast. Coffee sloshed over the rim. He didn't look at me as he walked out, but I did look at him, and I saw it clearly for the first time. He wasn't competing with me. He was afraid of me. That evening, as I walked to my car, the realization hit with full weight. This wasn't just about credit theft. This wasn't even about the deal. This was about survival. His. And the moment he tried to erase me, he accidentally created the one thing he couldn't control. A record, and records don't lie. The next morning felt different, not dramatically, not in a movie moment way, just tighter, like the office was holding its breath. People weren't talking as much. Doors stayed half closed. Slack statuses flipped from green to in a meeting, even when no meeting existed. It didn't take long to figure out why. At 9:26 a.m., Lauren sent a company-wide message. Team, CRM accuracy review today. Please make sure all Q4 documentation is up to date in your folders. That wasn't a suggestion. That was the corporate equivalent of a fire alarm. And it was aimed at exactly one person. Because the CRM was Ethan's blind spot. He loved visibility, but hated documentation. He always talked about thinking at 10,000 feet, which usually meant he hadn't done the 10 feet of work required to keep a system running. So when Lauren opened the CRM the night before, she didn't find chaos. She found nothing. No updated notes. No timeline logs. No version history. No attachments. Just a name attached to a 1.2 met revenue stream, with no proof of contribution. Meanwhile, my folder, because I'm the kind of person who updates everything, looked like a blueprint for the entire count. And for the first time, the system wasn't protecting him. It was revealing him. At 10:14 a.m., I watched Lauren walk past my desk with her laptop tucked under her arm. She wasn't rushing. She never rushed. But there was purpose in the way she moved. An hour later, a calendar invite popped up. Account review. 1-1. Lauren, Michael time. 2 Dow p.m. No Ethan. I sat there for a moment, thinking through every possible reason she would want to speak alone. Feedback, clarification, reprimand, recognition. Corporate life trains you not to assume anything. But I wasn't scared. Not this time. By 2, her office door was open. Come in, she said. Her tone wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either, just neutral in a way that forces you to listen. She gestured at the chair across from her. I spent the morning reviewing the CRM, she said, and the proposal logs. I nodded once. She tapped her screen, rotated it toward me. This is your folder, she said. Organized. Time stamped. Clear. The story of the entire project laid out like a breathing thing. Then she clicked another tab. And this is his. 3 files. All outdated. 1 mislabeled. She looked up. Not dramatic, just steady. Why didn't I know you were carrying the operational load? She asked. I didn't give her excuses, didn't blame Ethan, didn't paint myself as a hero. I told the truth. He kept saying he'd update it later, I said. And since I had the information anyway, it was faster to just do it myself. She exhaled, a tired sound not directed at me. That's how gaps form, she said quietly. Silent workers and noisy managers. She typed something on her keyboard, short, final. Then closed the laptop. I'm escalating this, she said, and I'm bringing the client into the loop. That sentence landed like a dropped weight. Bringing the client in meant one thing. She wasn't assessing anymore. She was preparing to act. When I left her office, I saw Ethan pacing in the hallway, eyes darting between rooms like he was looking for an exit that didn't exist. He saw me and tried to smile. It looked painful, stretched too thin. Hey, he said, voice cracking. All good? I didn't answer that. Instead, I said, Lauren wants to talk to you next. his face drained. How do you know? She told me. For the first time since this mess started, he didn't have a comeback. No spin, no deflection, nothing. Just silence. At 4:17 p.m., the next shift happened. A new email popped up. Not from Lauren, not from Ethan, from the client. Subject line, scheduling request, contract continuity review. My stomach tightened, not out of fear, out of realization. Lauren had already contacted them. The body of the email was short. Michael, we'd like you on the call tomorrow. We have some questions about internal ownership of deliverables. Please ensure all necessary context is available. No mention of Ethan, not even in CC. I sat there staring at the screen, the weight of everything finally settling in. This wasn't about a proposal anymore. This was about credibility, about trust, about who actually kept the machinery running. And for the first time, the situation wasn't spinning out of control. It was aligning. As I shut down my laptop for the day, I caught a reflection in the dark screen. My own face, tired but steady. I had spent months thinking I was being pushed out, but I had it backwards. The moment Ethan erased my name, he erased the only shield he'd ever had, because once the client started asking questions, real questions, they weren't going to stop where he wanted them to, and tomorrow's call was going to be the first time he couldn't talk his way out of anything. The call was scheduled for 9 a.m. Sharp. I didn't sleep much the night before, not from anxiety, but from clarity, the kind that comes when the pieces finally align and you're no longer guessing what game you're in. I arrived early, set up in a small conference room, opened every document I might need, timelines, decision logs, budgets, emails, version histories, not to weaponize anything, just to be prepared. At 8:57, Lauren stepped in. She didn't sit across from me. She sat beside me. That small shift said more than any speech could. At 8:59, the client joined. Two of them, Daniel, the operations director, and Claire, the legal liaison who'd been copied on the renewal. Ethan entered last. He slipped into the room quietly, taking the far seat, trying to stay out of the camera's center view. His face was the color of old paper. "Thanks for joining," Daniel said. "We'll keep this brief." There was a pause, just long enough for the tension to settle, not long enough for anyone to escape it. "We reviewed the final proposal," he continued, "and we noticed inconsistencies between this version and previous drafts." No one spoke. Not because we didn't want to, but because no one wanted to interrupt what was coming next. Daniel leaned forward slightly, specifically the absence of Michael's byline. Given he's been our primary point of contact for 6 months, this raised concerns about internal continuity. Ethan swallowed, eyes fixed on the table. Lauren spoke before he could. "We're currently clarifying internal workflows," she said, tone calm, professional. "There was a misalignment during the compilation of the final draft." "Misalignment," Claire repeated softly. A word that can mean almost anything, or one very specific thing. Then she said the part that changed everything. "We're requesting that all future proposal versions and strategic documents list full contributors to avoid ambiguity. Not recommend, not suggest, request, from a client handling a 7-figure contract." And then, the moment no one expected, Daniel turned his attention fully to me. "Michael, could you walk us through the timeline of how we arrived at this renewal package?" He didn't ask Ethan. He didn't ask Lauren. He asked me. I clicked open the file on my screen, shared it, and calmly walked through every step, including the travel, the planning sessions, and the adjustments we made based on their feedback. Not once did I mention Ethan's late-night upload. Not once did I frame myself as the victim. Just the facts. And the facts spoke loud enough. When I finished, Daniel nodded. "This aligns with our experience," he said. "Thank you." What happened next wasn't dramatic. Corporate fallout rarely is. It's quiet, precise, surgical. After the call, Lauren dismissed us with a neutral, "Thank you for your time." But before I stood up, she added, "Michael, stay for a moment." Ethan froze mid-step. Lauren didn't look at him, didn't call him back. She just repeated, "Michael stays." He walked out, shoulders tight, steps uneven. When the door closed, she turned to me. "The client has requested you lead the renewal moving forward," she said. "I'm formalizing that today." I didn't respond immediately, not because I wasn't ready, because I wanted to absorb the weight of it, not the victory, but the justice. She continued, "I've initiated a documentation audit for account leadership roles. Depending on the outcomes, there may be structural changes. In corporate language, structural changes means one thing. Someone's position is no longer secure." She didn't need to say whose. I nodded. "Understood. And Michael," she added, closing her laptop with finality, "for what it's worth, thank you for not escalating this emotionally. Facts were enough." I left the room quietly, not triumphant, not vindictive, just steady. Because it was never about winning, it was about being seen for what I'd actually done. By noon, the news had already drifted through the office. Ethan was removed from the project. No shouting, no spectacle, just a reassignment email with no explanation, the corporate equivalent of a closed door. By the end of the week, he wasn't leading any accounts at all, and the renewal, it went through, with my name not at the bottom, but at the top. That Friday evening, as I packed my bag to go home, I opened the original proposal one last time, the version where my name had been deleted. Then I closed it. Not out of resentment, but because it no longer mattered. I didn't need the document to prove what I'd built. The client had already done that for me, and the next time someone tried to erase me, I wouldn't wait for anyone to put my name back. I'd write it myself.